you have put all your faith and reliance onto these medical practitioners, then you're going to end up believing exactly what they're saying. And over the course of the years, I most certainly believed in what they were telling us, that I was an ideal candidate for gender reassignment surgery. And I submitted to that idea. And that is a regret in itself. I regret trusting them. I really do.
Just explain a bit, just as the sort of broad view of your own story of transitioning, of gender dysphoria, and the surgery that you eventually underwent.
Yeah, of course. So I entered the NHS services in my early 20s with a lot of mental health issues. One of the main problem that I had was a very high level of obsessive compulsive disorder and undiagnosed autism. I had a lot of difficulties in school, just growing up in general, feeling alien, all the issues that these sort of things can bring to a person. And by the age of 25, I'd found gender dysphoria online, and to me, it fit all those markers of everything I'd been through perfectly. And from the second that obsession took over, there was no challenge, no question. It was just, yes, you are, because you say you are. And because you're a bit like us, actually, then you definitely are. And then I went to the medical professionals, and it just got worse. When I entered the gender clinic service in 2015 officially, the first question they asked me was, do you want surgery? And to be honest, I was really there for the help and the therapy. And I underwent a lot of therapy there. And by about 2.5 years into the therapy, the gender clinic were a little bit sick of us being on their books, as it were, because I kept refusing surgery. And then they give us the ultimatum, it's surgery or discharge. And by that point, because it was like 2.5 years in and I had a lot of professionals venerating my transsexual identity, I'd fully bought into the idea. And then I had the surgery in 2018 and instantly knew that that was not what I should have done. Not only did the surgery go wrong, I had a lot of bleeding, I've got urinary issues, pain, and I believe that to be like extraordinarily rare. But when I started recovering, I realized that there's a lot of people like this.
Yeah.
And we're just kind of getting silenced off, and we need safeguards, we need protection, just like every vulnerable person does in any situation. And that's a synopsis of my story.
Thank you for that. That's so helpful because it does just sort of lay a bit of a foundation for discussing these sorts of issues. I just wonder, Richie, when you say it was 2.5 years, in some ways that does feel like quite a long time. You know, in terms of considering your options, working out exactly how you felt about your own situation as well. You say also that, you know, that you did actually refuse the surgery a couple of times. What was it that convinced you? Why did you go along with it in the end?
There was a lot of people rooting for me, and every time I had brought up a challenge why I shouldn't have it, I got told that that was either some form of internalized transphobia, or eventually it got painted that things are going to get so bad anyway down below because the hormones have an impact to your genital area and your function anyway. And all these things were just getting weighed against me. Now, 2.5 years does sound like a long time, but when it's the first question you get asked straight away when you first enter, that's not a lot of time. And it starts with this expectation that's what you're there for. And for me, that was the biggest issue because I was naturally resisting that. And they just kept asking and asking and asking. And if you've got somebody who's got autism or any mental health issue, and you have put all your faith and reliance onto these medical practitioners, then you're going to end up believing exactly what they're saying. And over the course of the years, I most certainly believed in what they were telling us, that I was an ideal candidate for gender reassignment surgery. And I submitted to that idea. And that is a regret in itself. I regret trusting them. I really do.
The other thing about this as well is the campaign is focusing on children and young adults. You were in your 20s, your mid-20s indeed, when you began this process, I suppose. You were 25, as you were outlining.
Yep.
I just wonder if, you know, as we listen to that, 25 is by far and away you were an adult at that point. But would you consider that you weren't equipped enough to kind of make these decisions? I suppose I'm trying to understand where the cutoff for somebody to be empowered to make these decisions should actually be.
Well, I think I'll turn that back on you and say, at what age do safeguards not apply? Vulnerable people deserve safeguards. I was a vulnerable person and I did not get the safeguards that I deserved. That's what this is about. Age does not matter. It's all about how fit, how well you are, how capable of making a decision you are. And naturally, there is a lot of information on the case that I haven't made public that add weight to the things I'm saying, but because of the nature of what's going on, I can't say all these intricate details.
Sure.
But fundamentally, I think to answer that question, it would be every adult, every vulnerable person, regardless of the age, deserves protection, that deserves safeguards.
In your view, Richie, and we'll bring Laura in a sec, in your view, does anyone who is considering themselves as having gender dysphoria, are they automatically vulnerable in that position?
I would say it really depends on the context of that individual's life, which is why we should not generalize these matters whatsoever. We need to take a holistic individual approach. For instance, somebody who has gender dysphoria and manages quite well with no existing comorbidities should be able to sail through that process without any problems. But someone with addiction issues, multiple mental health issues and undiagnosed autism, things like that, that puts you in a very vulnerable position.
Yeah.
And that makes it very difficult to say no to.
When you think about the time that you spent living as Abby, how do you feel about that time now?
I mean, there was certainly the way I feel about it, the initial transition, and for the first few years, I wasn't even really that bothered about the hormones and stuff, you know. I was, as I said, I was a little bit older, so I'd been through puberty and stuff. So the physical impact from that was less severe. But for me, it gave us that bridge from that really dark place I was in to get to be where I needed to do now. But at the end of the day, I felt like I was naturally coming out of that in about a few times, 2015, 16 and 17. And I was naturally trying to escape that because I'd kind of got what I wanted from it. So I'm very much not against transition as a whole. I'm very, very strictly, I suppose I'm advocating for safeguards, not to take away any treatment. I would feel horrified if any treatment got taken away, because that's not what this is about. This is about reinforcing and adding in and making sure that that care is appropriate, you know?